All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the July 2021 Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. Board members' names are in front of you on the dais, and we have a full dais finally. Thank you. Greg Fulchetti, Town Council's with us, and Mike Carnazza, Code Enforcement Officer. The way we operate is we'll hear the cases. I'll ask you to come up to the dais. I'll swear you in. The podium, and tell us what your situation is. Once we get questions, input from the board, we will open it up to the public, and then once a case is closed, there'll be no further input from the public whatsoever. So please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm going to remind everyone to speak clearly into the microphone, please, because it's being recorded for record. And I think there's sanitizer up there if you feel comfortable. If not, no one's wearing a mask, or if you do come up and speak, just feel free to drop the mask so we can pick up your voice. All right, the first case tonight, number one, is a holdover, and it's application Charles Harmon, variation of section 156-15, seeking permission to retain existing shed 7.8 feet from side yard, required 20 feet, and 13 feet from rear property line, where required to be 20 feet. Property is located at 51 Fenwood Road, Mahopac, New York, tax map 76.18-2-55. Good evening, folks. Both going to be speaking?
Yes.
Let me swear you in. Actually, state your names and address for the record again.
Sure. Charles Harmon, 51 Fenwood Road, Mahopac, New York.
Doris Harmon, 51 Fenwood Road.
You can turn that down, please. All right, raise your right hands. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, we do.
All right, this is coming back to us. I guess we had an advertising glitch here. So let's run through this again. Briefly, we all heard it last week, and it's been recorded, so.
Right. So Mike came out, we kind of re-clarified the distance on the side to be 7.8 and 13 in the back, so we re-sent out the letters, readjusted the distance on the letters as well, indicating a 12.2 from the side and a 13 from the back. We initially had asked for 8 from the side and 15 from the back, making a remeasuring and so on, indicated the discrepancy.
Okay, so it's a little more extreme than what was before.
2 inches on the side and an additional 2 feet in the back.
Okay. Anything else to add from last month? Nothing new?
No, I could
besides
go
that?
over all the points if you'd like to refresh.
No, I don't think it's necessary unless the board wants to. No. Anybody have any questions then as to any new information on this?
So since the last time you were here, you went out with Mike and you just did a remeasure, that's
Well,
basically.
Mike came out, and basically, there's a fence there, there's 2 fences on the side, and I believe Mike used paperwork from the office and so on, and the discrepancy on the side was of 2 inches. Is there some crown molding on the side of the shed, which I did not allot for.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I
Mike, you
clarified
concur?
the numbers that were submitted by the neighbor. They had a survey done and they shot the shed. I went out and clarified that they appeared to be close, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any input from the public on this application?
I would just like to make a point before
Oh,
it's
sorry. Before you
open
come
to the public. I felt last time when it was open to the public, I'd like to keep the context of the open to the public strictly to the application here. I felt the last time a lot of slander was made, accusations, allegations, so on, outside the purview of what's the
Yep,
application here. So I would
tried to
ask the
clamp that
board not
down
to let
last
that
time,
happen,
and
please.
we'll do the best we can.
Thank you.
And I'll be happy to come up after and rebut anything at that point.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sir? I'll just remind you guys to speak clearly into the microphone, please. You can tilt it towards you.
Oh, okay.
All right, state your name and address again for the record.
Dr. Lawrence Gorlick, 47 Fenwood Road, Mahopac, New York.
Raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thanks.
I wish to thank the board for allowing me to clarify my previous remarks. I believe that the Harmons tried to dupe and deceive the building department by presenting it with a fraudulent survey map. First, their drawing misrepresented their shed's position by showing it far from its actual placement in relation to our property line. Second, their drawing on the map shows the shed 20 feet from the property line when it is not even 8 feet from the property line. Third, the drawing shows the shed 125 square feet in size when it is actually over 200 square feet in size. It seems clear to us that the Harmon's presentation to the building department in order to obtain a building permit is a premeditated lie.
Do you agree with the variance as it is now on the application, 12.2 feet on the side and 7 feet from the rear?
The answer is yes, and I would like to touch on that because those figures are mine
That's
from my
fine.
surveyor.
Okay.
I
and
understand that. That's what we want to hear. That we want to hear about this.
Those numbers are correct now.
And that's what was clarified, that's why this was held over. So
Okay.
just to remind everybody
Got
out
it.
there.
To answer the question from one of the zoning board members, I think it was this young lady, as to why at our last meeting, as to why it took us 14 years to bring up the shed's violation, we are now able to explain that. We put up with the fact that we had to cut down a number of trees that died because of the flow of water from the Harmon sheds, leaders, and gutters directed onto our property. We had also been told that the gross size and bulk of the shed that looks like a small house will affect our property's value because of its close proximity to our property line. Now that we have reached our senior years, we have begun discussing the possibility of selling our home. We have concluded that we should, at this time, that we should have the Harmons correct their violation that would decrease our property's value. This action has nothing to do with any type of retaliation that was mentioned at the last meeting. This action has to do with protecting a lifetime investment, which is our home. The Harmons claim that our objection to their illegal shed is retaliation. I would like to show you what retaliation is really like. I want to make it clear to this board that we believe there is ongoing destruction to town property by the Harmons in retaliation to our objection to their shed. Our belief is that they are spraying grass and weed killer on the town property highway right-of-way that I am responsible for maintaining. This is a photo of that destruction.
That's not relevant to this case.
Yeah,
That's not relevant to this
we're
case.
not gonna get back
We need to
into-
only talk about the shed and only the shed. Otherwise, we're wasting time.
12.2 feet and 7 feet. That's the only thing we're really interested in.
That is not relevant to this case. Please move on.
Okay, I will. In conclusion, it is our belief that the building department has been duped by the Harmons and had granted a building permit in error, a mistake that was made that can be corrected. Also, please note that the legal notice that was sent out by the town to nearby homeowners had to be corrected and sent a second time for this meeting. It took a home visit by Mr. Carnazza to change the previous zoning board application to the now correct distances. These distances were originally provided by my surveyor. You have never seen any type of application provided by the Harmons that show you the correct distances nor the actual size of the shed.
I'm going to reiterate, like I did last month, we're not expecting homeowners to get a survey done for a shed for
That's not a
small
requirement.
locations.
I understand that,
So-
but my belief is that at some point, this board should see an actual diagram, sketch of...
It was
of-
done further than that and better than that. The code enforcement officer went out and measured it with them. And it's
But-
accurate to what your surveyor came up with.
And now that's in front of this body.
Okay.
So go ahead, conclude,
Okay.
but I think
I'm
we're
concluding. I have
barking
one
up a
paragraph
wall
left.
here.
So if you think about it, this is the second time that the Harmons tried to defraud my town. 2 times. First, with their application to obtain a building permit, and second, with their application to the zoning board. Both were incorrect. We are aware that the Zoning Board of Appeals often approves variances for sheds. I'm going to skip my next sentence. I don't want to offend anybody,
Yeah,
all right?
let's
As I
just
stated at the
speak
la-
to the facts.
As I stated at the last meeting, it is our sincere hope that this board will value fairness and not reward misrepresentations. Please reject this variance. My attorney would like to speak now about the legal ramifications.
Thank you, Doc.
Good evening, everybody. Michael Caruso, 3871 Danbury Road, Brewster, New York, for the Gorelick's. Just 60 to 90 seconds of your time, members of the zoning board. What I think my client's trying to convey to the board is how the applicants come to this board is important, and whether that is to correct errors on a survey that another party generated or however that may be. Accuracy is important. And my client is obviously visibly upset about that. That's not to say that in every instance, homeowners have to come forward, engage a surveyor, things that we discussed at the last meeting. But I do think the board should be aware of whether or not that application was complete, why it was incomplete, why it was inaccurate. Obviously, my client thinks that is important. I echo that sentiment. Whether the property owner came forward here and presented this clearly is up for the board to decide. It may not be part of the calculations in weighing the applicant's factors under 267B3 of the town law. But we've stated in my letter to the board, and I think my client has echoed this, that there are more than enough criterion to deny this application, that if ever a shed permit or a shed variance should be denied, we believe it's this one. It's substantial. It has undesirable changes and characteristics. It is absolutely self-created, and there is absolutely a place to move this shed to that would not offend any of the important systems that, that are attached to this home, including septics, which we've shown the board. So in total, again, I'm just going to wrap. The 5 factors are present. We'd argue that all 5 are against this application. We'd ask the zoning board to deliberate and deliver a fair result, which would be to deny the application. Thank you for your time.
Okay,
Thank you, Counsel.
Thank you, counsel.
thank you. Anybody else wish to be heard?
Just want to clarify a few points. Just to reference the other 2 applications down the street, I know I presented last time, just want to refresh the board. Do you need me to refresh your recollection on that? The 2 other requests down the street at 2 houses away, at Mr. Anthony Rizzulli, 2 houses away, received a variance in 1992 for more of a substantial variance, and then also Thomas Santangelo, 4 houses away, was approved by the board as well for more of a substantial variance that I'm asking for as well. Those are 2 documented cases for precedence as well. And just to clarify, when you submit these applications, there was no type of fraud or anything like that. I measured to the best I could when I did that. I did 8 from the side and 15 from the back. I didn't allocate for 2 inches. I do apologize for that. I wasn't looking to mislead the board in any manner of that nature, and from the back as well. And earlier in 2020, I had tasked my wife with obtaining a permit for the shed. Her and my daughter measured the shed from the inside of the shed, not from the outside, and she sketched it on top of the septic fields, which she felt we could move it to, which was not a spot we could. So that was done in error on her behalf. We're both new to this. She obviously made some mistakes. We do acknowledge those mistakes, and we apologize for the board for any errors with that. And we also spoke to Mike in regards to nothing was done maliciously here. It was done with basically a lack of experience. We know for next time, which hopefully there won't be a next time applying for any board, any zoning.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Anybody
sir.
else wish to be heard on this application? I look for motion to close the hearing.
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thanks. Next application this evening is number 2, Stacy
Mr. Chairman,
Hirsch.
I'm recusing myself of this one.
Let it be noted that Silvio has recused himself. Application number 2, Stacy Hirsch, for a variation of section 156-A and 156-42, seeking permission to convert outdoor dog run to interior space, add new indoor additional dog run, and construct office space. Property is located at 311 Drewville Road, Carmel, New York, and is known as tax map 66.13-1-7. Good evening, folks.
Good evening.
Name and address for record, please.
Paul Lynch, Putnam Engineering, 4 Old Route 6, Brewster, New York.
Hi, Paul.
Hi, Stacy Hirsch, 311 Drewville Road, Carmel.
All right, raise your right hand, guys. Swear to speak the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, Paul, bring us through it since you're engineer of record here.
Stacy's current business is located in this back section of her house. This is her house, main, living space. So this is where the kennel is now. These are the open outdoor dog runs, and what she's looking to do is enclose the dog runs and make that now part of the building, so there's no longer be outdoors. Add a dog run along this side, and then actually put create office space on this side of the building. So that's why we are here. We're here because the existing lot does not meet the current zoning standards for lot area. We have 64,700 square feet. The current zoning calls for, I think, 120,000, so we're short there. The lot width needs to be 200. We have 154, which is this lot width here. Parking spaces, when we do our calculations, mathematically, we're short. However, Stacy does not have an issue with parking because she basically picks up dogs and transports them to her facility and transports them back to the owners. So there isn't an in and out traffic situation. And she's been there for over
17 years.
17 years. So parking's never been an issue for her.
Which helps you on the last situation too with the aisle width. Right, 12-foot aisle width?
And we currently have a 12-foot driveway that comes up from Drewville Road, crosses New York City DEP lands, and then it's back to the 12-foot, and then it widens out on her property.
All right, so there's no property that can be bought to bring this into conformance, correct?
Correct.
So the dog run was there, right? But now you're covering it with,
It'll be enclosed now.
Okay.
So it's open air on basically one side right now, the
Okay.
back side. That's
all
open
right,
air.
so it's not going to be heated or,
It will be.
it
It'll
will
become
be
part
in-
of it. It will become
Yeah.
interior space.
Right,
Oh,
it'll
okay,
be all
okay.
indoor space,
Yeah, everything will be now indoor space.
soundproofed and enclosed.
okay. Any lot coverage issues? Mike, there's no lot coverage issues, right? If they keep expanding?
Sorry. If they continue to expand, you're only allowed to cover, I don't have the number in my head.
We're under the number.
15%, but they're not even near.
Yeah, we're not near it.
All right, so that would be a concern for runoff and,
Yes.
roofing and whatnot, so. Is there any drainage that needs to be done to accommodate, or,
No, because actually where she's building, it's basically already paved.
okay,
So you're replacing one impervious surface with another. This spot over here is grass now, so that will now have a roof. But in terms of the square footage, it's an insignificant number to deal with.
okay, and then the dog, or it's pets also, right? Cats or just dogs?
Just dogs.
All right, so will the count increase
No,
to a certain degree? So
no,
still
it's just to enclose this space, but it's not to increase the amount coming in.
Okay. All right, let me open it up to the board. John, any questions or concerns?
Yes. What is the maximum number of dogs you can house there overnight, anyway?
It really varies.
I think we established 60.
I think we did give some numbers, I figured it out, so I think I did answer this.
Yeah, I think that came up at the planning board meeting. He wanted to know what was the maximum number of dogs she could have, and I think that number was 60.
Right, we generally don't have that kind of number, but that's what we could hold if,
Just out of curiosity, how do you handle all the waste? How is that handled?
we bag it all up
Yeah.
and put it in the garbage, just like I do my own personal dogs.
Yeah, no further
Bag it and
questions.
tag it. Rose?
Will the dogs have any outdoor space?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, so it
Where
actually
would
is
they
not
be?
taking away from the yard we already have, because these are already covered runs. So
That area.
beyond that is the yard that they already have space in, it's all fenced in.
It's all
So that will
fenced in?
stay. Mhm.
Okay, that's my only question.
No questions, thank you.
No questions.
No question.
All right. Is there any input from the public on this application? All right. I'll look for hearing.
Motion to close.
Do I have a second?
Second.
By Bill, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Guys.
Thank you.
Everyone's away. All right, application number 3, John Ferlato for variation, section 156-15, seeking permission to install a shed. Property is located 55 Circle Road, Mahopac, New York, tax map 74.42-1-20. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
State your name and address for the record, please.
John Ferlato, 55 Circle Road, Mahopac, New York.
Right hand. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, sir.
All right, bring us through what your situation is here.
So we're looking to replace an existing shed that was on the property when we purchased it. The existing shed is an 8x8 exterior dimensions. It is in disrepair now, so we're seeking to replace it with a larger shed, now to be an 8x14. So it would still be 8 feet wide, 14 inches deep, front to back.
Okay, and there's no property you can buy to bring it into conformance?
Pardon?
There's no property you can purchase to bring it into conformance?
No, sir.
All right, and this is in Secor, right? So there's all
It is.
sewer there? If you can move this shed back, how much room? Because right now it's existing, you're going to demo the old one and can you slide this thing back so it lessens the amount of variance that you required? I mean, right now, you're 1 foot. So if this
Correct.
thing's getting removed, let's set this up. How far can we move it back?
To move it toward
I don't know if it can go
from the back
side
to the front of the house,
to the garage.
there's some room to work with, but from side to side, there's maybe a few inches.
Yeah, because you're up next to the garage there.
Well, the garage, there's no garage there anymore.
Okay, I didn't get out there to see.
Frame garage is not there?
Correct.
All right, so theoretically, you can move this
This is
thing
not there?
further.
If that is the garage, correct, sir.
That's gone. Right?
Correct.
And this is where it is?
So that's where the 8x14 shed, the 8x8 shed is now. Now, where you see the garage is no longer there, and the house now is 14 feet wider.
Like this way?
No,
this
sir.
way.
Correct.
I got you. And what about going up this, lot to the south here, to the right?
Then it would start blocking the windows on the house and the door.
All right, well, that's,
The side door.
we're here to grant the minimal variance, and to me, it looks like you have room. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to physically go out and look at this one, but now that you're telling me that the garage is not there, I can say it's definitely, you got room to bring this thing in. So we're going to come to a number that I think we can agree to. We're bringing this thing in 5 feet from the back rear property, and I don't know how, is this concrete curb still here?
The concrete block patio, John? Or the
No, it is not.
No, it's not. All right, so you have room to bring this in. You're going to set it up on a foundation or a pad or?
It's going to
whatever?
be either, they're going to deliver it pre-built, or it's going to be self-assembled, where all the panels will be built, and then just put together on site if they can't load it off a truck and place it there. It would be sitting on patio blocks or something similar.
All right, you spoke to your neighbors about
Yes.
this?
Yes, sir.
On back and that side?
Yes.
All right, there's room to do this, so let's do this, and knowing that this is not existing and knowing that a new one is coming, let's move this thing in 5 feet from both sides. I don't know if the board feels comfortable with that. This way, we'll minimize the amount of variance that's encumbering your neighbors and the town.
It could move 5 feet from the back, but there's definitely not the room on the side.
Well, you're telling me that the frame garage is not there anymore.
Right, but the house that's there is actually 14 feet wider, so where the garage is no longer, the house is out 14 feet.
The house goes into the frame garage, John.
Yes.
Oh.
So where the
Okay.
garage was is where the house is, but not completely.
So this is not an up-to-date survey?
We should
or
have,
site plan.
a plan showing where the new house is.
Yeah,
So we can
it
relate
doesn't really show it on your site plan.
This is not.
I thought it was on one of the surveys we had.
Pardon?
Wasn't the addition on one of the houses, one of the surveys we had?
I'm not sure. Without looking at it, I couldn't tell you.
Gotta be on something, but it's not on this.
No, it's not on there.
I thought we had it, and that's how you told me how far it was off the house, so.
Well, remember, I did measure it. That was one of the things you wanted me to come back with. That I measured, that's how much bigger the house
Where'd
is
you pull
then.
the file?
Can you reduce the size of the shed?
We could. So depth, definitely we could. And the width, maybe a few inches or so, but the depth, not a problem. So front to back.
So front to back? but
Front to back, we could reduce it.
On the side variance, you can't pull it in? Is that where the 14 feet is coming from?
The 14 feet, correct. So the driveway appears a lot wider on what you see there than it actually is at that point. So from the side, it could come in maybe a foot, but there's not too much room to work with there. There is more room going front to back, though.
Is that because you're buying a larger shed?
No, that's because the garage was torn down, then the house had an addition put on prior to us purchasing it.
Are you going to, put electricity to this shed?
We hadn't planned on it?
Okay. So it's just storage?
Correct.
Anything in this direction that you can lay it, or that's, I don't know what's here?
That's
Grass?
just an extension of the driveway.
Right here? Lot 46?
Lot 46, correct, that's the extension. I'm not sure on there where the driveway ends and the grass begins, but yes.
All right, so this isn't purchased yet, so you can minimize the size in the direction.
We could
towards
reduce
the
it, yes,
house.
sir.
All right, so I'm gonna say 5 feet from the back line. Does everyone kind of agree with that? This way it minimizes the back line. And you can reduce the shed in width by how much?
Maybe a foot.
Let's say 2 feet. Can you do 2 feet?
I could check with the builder.
All right, so this,
I don't see why not.
this is being stick-built? It's not a kit?
It's a kit, it's pre-assembled. Normally, they would just roll it off the truck. It's pre-built on their site, then they just deliver it. So they probably could reduce the size.
Okay, so then we're gonna go 5 feet provided in the rear. Can I borrow your pen? I don't know where your pen is. All right, so we're gonna say 5 feet.
That's the easy
Oh, that's the side.
He's going to need 5.
We're gonna say 5 feet in the rear, which will give you, you're gonna need a variance of 5 feet.
18 by 4, 8
And
by
then we'll
14.
say 3 feet
Well, now 8 by 12.
provided on the side, and you'll need a variance of 7
7.
feet.
You could do that?
I'd have to measure again. The 7 is going to be, on the side is going to be tough, but the back, no problem. The back can absolutely be done, the 5 feet.
Okay, well, we're gonna change this, and I'm gonna have you initial it, so we gotta
Nothing
follow.
new about this.
I'm gonna change this application, this is your original application, I'm gonna change it to those numbers, and we're gonna have to agree to that. All right, so talk to whoever's building this thing, and tell them you gotta work with these numbers,
Yes, sir.
okay? All right, just do me a favor, come up and sign.
But this is square.
Just initial wherever you.
Because it's your, yeah, because it's the old shed. This was. Ay, ay, ay. Sloppy, sloppy.
I think that'll work. All right, any input from the board members, further input, Julie, Sylvia?
No.
Bill? Bill?
No questions, thank you, sir.
No questions?
No, thank you.
All right, any input from the public on this application? I didn't think so. I'll look for a motion to close the hearing.
So
Motion
moved.
to close.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
The other half one.
Let's get more sheds.
It's in the
I
packet.
used to, that's why I can't look.
All right, John, thank you for working with us. Appreciate that. Working with the town, too. All right, application number 4, DPL Realty LLC for a variation of section 156-15, seeking, permission to continue use of an existing parking lot as part of a new site plan with 28 parking spaces with a width of 9 feet as opposed to the 10-foot width required by the code. Approval of pre-existing non-conforming lot width. Use variance to permit use of second and/or third floors for residential apartments. Property is located at 102 Glenida Avenue, Carmel, New York, and is tax map 44.14-1-22. Good evening.
Good evening.
State your name and address for the record, please.
Adam Thyberg of 47 West Center Street, Beacon, New York.
All right, are you a lawyer?
No, I'm from Insight Engineering, Surveying, Landscape Architecture. I'm also joined by Bob Lusardi of Daniels Porco Lusardi LLP, and Bill McGinnis of Sun Homes is also with us.
All right, raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
Do me a favor, also bring up the microphone so and speak a little more concisely into it if you don't mind. All right, bring us through your application, please.
Yes, so the project that is before you is also currently before the planning board. What the applicant is seeking to do is to renovate an existing building at 102 Glenida Avenue. It's in the hamlet of Carmel. With the renovation of the building, the applicant is seeking to reconfigure the second and third floors of the building, which are currently used as office space, to 4 market rate apartments, residential units. So there is a use variance before you tonight, as residential uses are not permitted within the commercial zone. I'm going to ask Mr. Lusardi to speak to the use variance in a minute, but I did want to just touch briefly on the area variances before we dive into that. The first is, I think, really pretty straightforward. We have a pre-existing non-conforming lot width. The lot is 152 feet. The C zone calls for 200 feet. I believe it's my understanding that this lot width predates zoning, but again, we're not seeking any further subdivision or anything like that. This is just for a site plan, so I think that one's relatively straightforward. The other area variance in question tonight is regarding parking spaces. So for a little background, as to how we came to the site plan that we have here, we recalculated the required number of parking spaces based on the proposed mix of uses. So we took the required number of parking spaces for the office space in the building to remain, and the required parking spaces that are required for the proposed 4 residential units. We put that together, and we're required to provide 31 parking spaces, which is 3 more than currently exist on the site. In this area over here, you can see the 3 additional parking spaces. These have been designed to meet the zoning requirement of 10 feet by 20 feet. These are not in question with regard to this variance. The variance is to do with the existing parking spaces that are in this area here, and a couple of additional ones out here towards the frontage, which are 9 feet by 18 feet. Basically what the applicant is requesting is just to be able to continue to use these parking spaces in their current configuration. The reason for which I think is somewhat clear: if we were to add a foot in width to each one of these parking spaces, we would be expanding this parking lot into this wooded area here. We've looked at it, we'd have to take out something on the order of 15, 16 trees in order to do that. So it seems an undue burden on the applicant to expand the parking lot just to meet this requirement. When we have parking spaces that have historically functioned fine, we haven't had any operational or safety issues with these spaces being 9 by 18 as opposed to 10 by 20, 9 by 18 being a fairly standard dimension for parking spaces.
What is the current use of the building? It's mostly commercial?
It's all office space
Legal
currently,
offices.
yeah. So they would be, again, the second and third floors that would be converted to the residential use.
All right, cars are smaller these days. I think we've historically okayed 9 feet, just to remind the board members. We've done that in the past, so. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So I was just going to say, so that's kind of a summary of the 2 area variances that are being requested, and I would ask Mr. Lusardi to speak to the use variance.
All right, thank you.
Excuse me. You wrote and/or on the application for the second and third floor? It says second and/or third floor? You're using the third floor, correct?
Yes.
There's no or, so the or should come out of that.
Let's change that on the
And the other thing was, you said that the residential use is permitted in the commercial zone?
No, he said it
No,
wasn't.
the
No, he's
opposite.
asking for use.
Okay, I thought you
The-
said
the
that it was,
opposite,
and
no.
I'm sorry, that's why I got confused.
I think this is it. Yes.
That's correct.
Mike, you got some magnifying glasses over there?
Office building or residential, but no mixed office.
On the
Oh,
agenda.
okay, but I'm seeing if it's on the application.
Yeah, it is.
I can't,
And
the print is so
12, right?
small.
Office and
Right over
residential.
I'm just gonna add changed to and.
It does say second and or third on the application. You need to get better glasses.
It's on the low one.
He's gonna get you.
Who can sign off on this as the applicant? Can the engineer? Okay.
Still the sorry.
So sorry again.
We're gonna change it on, I changed it on the application, so it's got here.
The
Sir, you
or.
could initial it.
Just initial it. Okay. You filed the application, right, Dennis? Yes. Okay, I wrote change, because it's hard to read, that it's not small print.
You know, with the form that you give, that's what happens, the print gets smaller.
If you hit enter and go to the next line, then it starts again.
Figure it out, I tell you, I tried, but I figured it out.
Oh, no worries.
Greg, you don't think we would have to re-advertise it based on that?
Yeah.
All right, just
It was
state
still
your name
in
and address for the record, your counsel.
My name is Robert Lusardi. I'm a principal of DPL Realty, the applicant. And I'm here to speak with regard to the requested use variance. The building we've owned for some time. It had been formerly owned by John Porco, who was a member of the firm. He sold the building to Dave Daniels and myself a number of years ago. The building, the problem we have with the building is it's a very large building that's laid out very poorly. When there was an addition that was added to it back in 1987 that more than doubled the size of the building. But the way it's laid out, it's not laid out well at all. There's a second floor that is not handicapped accessible, and there's a very narrow stairway leading up to it. And we have not been able to rent that floor ever. We have a couple very small tenants that pay a nominal amount of rent for a very small part of it, but the vast majority of the second floor we cannot rent. That puts the building in a situation where it's at best a break even, and you can't generate, in terms of the expenses of the building versus the rents that it would generate at market rates, and we can't generate enough to get it sold, basically, and to make it realize a return. We submitted affidavits from Kevin Dwyer, who's a local commercial real estate broker. And Kevin is here tonight, and he can certainly address his affidavit that was submitted to the board. But essentially, he's confirming that second floor office space is very, very difficult to rent, and our particular office has additional problems as well, as I've mentioned.
Mr. Lusardi, can you do me a favor, just can you raise the microphone up? Sure. Yeah, it's with the air conditioner going.
I'll try.
You know what, you can take it off the pedestal too
Here
and
we
talk
go.
right into it.
I think I have it now. So Kevin can certainly, ask Kevin to come up, and he can answer any questions you have with regard to his analysis of the building and its viability. We also have asked Bill McGinnis, who also submitted an affidavit to this board discussing what would need to be done with the second and, and third floors to make a residential space that would be able to realize a return. And so he can speak to that as a real estate developer.
Hi, Kevin Dwyer, Dwyer Agency, 579 Route 6, Mapac.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
Thanks, Kevin.
So I don't know if there's any questions regarding the affidavit. It has been very difficult trying to lease the second floor space for office, and it's not just this building, it's
Yeah,
many
It
buildings.
seems to be the trend, especially down that whole corridor, that
Yep.
you know, people can't make their returns, but it's hard to read, again, it's kind of small print, but did you come up with this scenario, rental scenario, or did Mr. Lazardi come up with
I
that?
weighed it with Bob, and
I'm
it was
sorry?
mostly Bob's numbers, but I weighed in on it with him.
All right, do you guys want to just, you know, go through it and make this part of the case here?
John, I think you're looking at Bill McGinnis's, this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Bill McGinnis that did that one, not Kevin.
If I may, Kevin's affidavit deals with the unrentability and the
Right.
lack of return on the building for office. And he used the financials that were prepared by DPL Realty that set forth the expenses and the income of the building. Bill McGinnis is presenting the proposal for apartments on the second and third floors, and the numbers that would be generated by those, by the expenses of putting those apartments in and the potential return from the apartments.
Okay, so you ready to speak to that?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thanks for seeing me. My name is Bill McGinnis, 361 Riverside Drive, Fairfield, Connecticut.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you.
Run through the numbers.
Essentially, what I did was
I didn't mean to throw you guys off your presentation here, but I just, you know, trying to establish, you know, financials here.
Sure.
For the record for a use variance.
Essentially, I ran the cost of operating and the cost of construction based on recent numbers that we've spent ourselves on buildings. And essentially, the addition to the building, there's no additional footprint, but there's additional envelope to take a stair tower and elevator up to the residential units. Now, that really becomes a sunk cost, whether there's 3 units or 4. So we're assuming a sort of a budget cost or a target cost of $200 a foot to do 3 units, and that drops to $180 a foot because of the cost that gets sunk into the circulation. So, you know, if I could just take my glasses off, there's about $140,000 difference in cost between the two, but the revenues justify it. There's a better return on it. You try and get north of 10% cash-on-cash return, which we don't quite get to with 3 units, and we comfortably get to it with a little extra with 4 units. So looking at it dispassionately as an investment, it doesn't really work. It's very thin as a 3-unit addition, and works a lot better as 4. And that's essentially the thesis of the comparison that I submitted.
Okay.
But would we be determining, we wouldn't care about how many units, we only care about the use. That would have to go back to planning for how many units, no?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I was asked to make a case for 4 units versus 3. The additional 4th unit is in existing attic space, so I don't know that it makes all that much of a difference, except there'd be an extra vehicle or 2 in the parking lot.
I know it's probably a planning board question too, but as to Mike, as to the life safety and like, are there fire escapes
That's all
required
planning.
and 2 means of egress for
That's
some of these?
correct.
That's all
All right, I mean, has that been considered as part of the design here?
Well, it's part of the plan review after. It's an initial discussion that we make sure they have the stairs and all that
Right.
stuff. But
So-
on top of that, at the end, we'll do the fine review at the building process,
Yeah,
permit
we-
process.
There's
Right.
certainly
We
ample
grant the
room in the
variance,
building
still
for
keep
the
going then
exit.
down their review. Right.
If
Sorry,
you
but-
grant the variance, they have several steps to continue to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'm sorry, continue.
Sorry, Bill.
That's all I really have to say, actually.
All right, Kevin, I didn't mean to cut you off before. I thought it was you who did this analysis. That's why I brought it up. Do you want to speak to the feasibility of real estate in the area or anything of that sort?
Yeah, in terms of the second floor office space throughout this area and other areas, it's been a dying breed. There isn't much to speak of in terms of people wanting to lease second floor office space. It's very, very difficult.
I think we actually had a case almost across the street a couple
Same,
months
yeah,
ago.
same area.
Situation.
Yeah.
So,
Very similar.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
sir. All right, you guys have anything to add? All right, is there any input from the board? Questions?
Yes. Has this been on the unit in on the market in the last 3 to 5 years? Have you tested the market at all?
Yes, it's been on 3 different multiple listing systems. It's been to marketing sessions. It's been out there for a number of years.
It's been on the market for a number of years?
Yes.
Okay. That's my only question.
No questions. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thanks again.
No question.
No questions.
All right, is there any input from the public on this application? I don't think so. All right, look for a motion to close the hearing.
Motion to close.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, and last application tonight, number 5, Michael Montgomery for a variation of section 156-15, seeking permission to install a 12 by 20 shed. The property is located at 50 Union Valley Road, Mahopac, New York, tax map 86.8-1-2. And representing tonight, Mr. Greenberg.
Guys, for the record, a 12 by 20 is not a shed. We count that as a garage. That's why the higher setbacks and all.
Okay. Thanks for the clarification, Mike. Name and address for the record.
Joel Greenberg, 2 Musket Road, North Mahopac, New York.
Good evening, Joel. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you, sir. Bring us through it.
We'll pull them down, no worries.
All right, drawings. We love drawings. What drawings do you make? They don't care.
So, Mike, it still says shed on the application. Do we need to make change?
It's a shed, but we count it as a garage for setbacks and this sort. It's not a small shed that they can be 10 feet from the property line, is my point.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, basically, as you can see from the aerial view, the property is located on Union Valley Road. There's the main house, a garage. Also, you can see that there's a swimming pool. And in this area over here where I wanted, there was a shed which was taken down. But the owner, Mr. Montgomery, now desires to put up a 12 by 20 shed. Again, if you look at the...
Joel, just take the mic off if you're going to be
You're
moving
right,
back and forth,
okay.
please.
As you can see from the survey, there's a stone wall that goes, the full width of the property actually extends beyond the property on both sides. So in order to basically shield this structure from everybody, we decided that the best place to put it would be on the other side of the stone wall. And I know that we have already spoken right to the north of us is the Mahopac Fire Department, and on the side is a house which is, as you can see, is way down in the far corner of their property. So basically, if you've been to the site, this is very heavily wooded. There's trees all along the property line over here. So between the stone wall and the trees, the shed is very well shielded, and we obviously would like to keep the stone wall except for a small opening so they can get into the shed, but the stone wall is in very good condition, and we'd like to keep that too. So that's the reason why the shed is located in this particular
So, Joel,
location.
on this picture, is it inboard of the stone wall, or it's on the other side of that
Outboard.
stone wall?
Outboard, Johnny.
Far
So,
side. Okay.
yeah, so,
Close to the brick building there.
Yeah, that's what, the brick building is the fire department.
Yeah, so you're gonna be close to encroaching on that building.
No, we're on our property.
You're gonna put the shed here, right?
No,
No? You're gonna put it over here?
no. In between.
In between, like where I'm drawing this?
No.
No?
No.
Okay, show, why don't you point where you're gonna put it?
there, you gotta get it right.
Well, obviously, this picture, it doesn't show the full situation here, but it's going to be going, you see these trees along here?
Yes.
Okay, the shed, there's enough room in there to go in between the stone wall, no, in between these trees and the stone wall.
You see these 3 arborvitaes?
Yes.
They're not gonna make it. I
Well-
mean, they're gone, right?
No, again, if you've
12
been
by
out, have
20.
you gone out there?
I haven't seen that.
Okay,
in
well,
person.
there's enough room to go in between the stone wall and the arborvitae's. So again, these arborvitae's, as
Well,
you...
that's a hard thing to see from this
Well, that-
angle.
exactly.
I'm looking at this.
Well,
You see that?
yes,
Overhead, you're a few feet behind the wall, it looks like already.
Yes.
On your site plan.
Right.
So you gotta be behind that wall going towards this structure, the fire department, correct?
yes, it's going toward the structure, but it's still obviously 7 feet from the property line, I believe.
Yeah, so it's 12 feet that way.
You said you spoke to the
12
fire
feet.
department?
Yes, the owner knows the gentleman from the fire department, and they have
No
no
issues or
objection.
concerns from
And the
there?
neighbor to the other side has no objection, because their house is way on the other side of their property. So I
Now-
think this is really,
But being on the other side of that stone wall, how do they have access to it? Because that stone wall...
no, I said in my opening statement that,
opening.
let's see, over here, there'll be an opening, well, they'll make an opening in the stone wall so he can get to the shed. But the stone wall basically will remain, and we'll just have maybe, a 3-foot opening, so we'll take a small portion of that out so we can get to the shed.
Okay, so
Again,
you're basically,
if
you're
you've
going
been
to be
to the
up
proper-
against, you're going to be up against that stone wall.
What's that?
right? You're going to be up on, you're going to be on the lower hillside of that stone wall, up against the stone wall itself.
Yeah, probably within a foot or two of the stone wall, correct.
It's like a foot. That doesn't make sense.
And again, it's shielded.
Why is
The
he
fi-
moving
We have the
it?
fire
If it
department on
was
the other,
stone
on
wall,
one
make it
side
all
and
the
behind it, and you have a neighbor. Again, if you look at the survey where it says DWG, that dwelling is way on the other side of the property, and this neighbor's also been approached and had no problem with the location.
Why does it go back where it was?
You know, Joel, looking at this,
It just seems it should be on the inboard side of the stone wall. You won't have to remove the stone wall, and you can minimize the variance. It's just, if it's not built yet, let's...
No, it's not,
let's
it's not,
entertain
Bill,
this.
of course not.
I mean, it looks like it would perfectly,
It would fit
aesthetically,
in his
work in
property.
that niche of that stone wall, and it'll minimize the amount of variance that you need, so...
then why can't it go here, Joel?
Look at the aerial bill, just
Right,
on the other
yes.
side of the stone wall.
Other side of the stone
It should be in
wall.
good shape.
Is it already there?
What?
There's nothing there.
No, it's
The shed's
proposed.
not, nothing's there now.
I'm just asking. I don't know what's there.
So
to
the
move a
width, the
shed.
width of that stone wall is about 2.5 feet. So
Yes.
we can
That's
bring
pretty
that
wide.
in, that distance,
Put it on the
right?
other side of
So,
the stone wall
so
and do
what
there.
would appear, what would be provided would be 11 feet, we'll say.
Just to say it once again, wouldn't we be better off behind the stone wall so it's basically shielded from everybody?
No, that's the fire department, it's not an occupied house, right?
Say it again?
That structure in that picture?
Yeah.
Is the fire department?
Yes, that's
right?
correct.
It's
Yes.
not occupied, it's not anyone living there, it's not a
Correct.
residence. I would even still think it'd be best on this side of the stone wall, and you'll minimize your variance.
Joel, with this rendition, those doors are on the narrow side, right?
Yes,
And in the way you have it set, the doors would have to be
right over here.
facing this way.
That's correct.
So you gotta remove a lot of wall, right, to get in and out.
How much wall do you have to remove? I would
Well,
say,
what is he gonna store in there?
obviously, just,
Garden
garden
equipment?
stuff like that.
Mowers?
So you don't need more than a 3 or 4 foot opening in the wall.
That's a 90-degree turn. I'm not the engineer, but what's, with that, why don't you just be over here? What's the big deal here? What's the difference if it's there?
Well, well, then, of course, then it gets very close to the pool. You're almost on top of the pool. That's another reason. I mean, again, this is a situation, and
If you turn this thing, can you turn it? Where you go through it and the doors face out? So you're going, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Is
hold
this
on.
like a wide-angle
This
camera
doesn't seem
photo?
right.
Because this is not matching up here.
No, actually,
That's
John
big, it's
John
substantial.
has a very good point. If we turn it around and have the rectangle this way, then the door, if you look at the elevation, the doors would face right by the stone wall, so you just open, just the width of the door and reduce the,
That would make more sense.
so you could reduce the width of the section of stone wall that you had to remove, and that would actually
And you'd probably
be a
end
better
up.
location.
You'd probably end up, the rear, you would lose less of a variance that way too.
At least on the side.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have to ask.
You would definitely lose that variance.
What is the need? I remember in 2014, when we granted the other variance, it was for a two-story garage, it has a portico on it. looks like it could have some living space upstairs. I'm not saying there
No,
is,
there's-
but there
there's
could
nobody
very
upstairs.
well.
There's nothing upstairs. I was up there.
Why do we have to have so much storage space on one piece of property?
Well, I mean, that's the owner's prerogative. I mean, it's a big, it's
Well,
not that it's a small piece of property.
It is his prerogative. However, it's our prerogative to grant variances
Oh, I understand.
and to grant lesser variances.
Well, I think if we do what John suggested, we could reduce the variances.
Why does it have to be a 12 by 20? I mean,
Again, it's-
honestly, he has a ton of storage already. I actually had people come to me later and say, why did you grant the last variance? Because it was such a large building. So I have to ask, why so large if you already have why so large? To add more, and I was gonna ask Mike, how are we doing on lot coverage? Are we okay with lot coverage? Between the pool, the shed, the second shed?
They're fine.
We're
Looks like he
fine.
demolished the
15%.
shed here. I don't know what size that was, but it was demolished
It
on
just
your
seems
plan.
that there's a lot of storage space.
Again,
This-
he owns this piece of property. Why isn't he entitled to have some, whatever he wants? I
He
mean,
is.
Within reason.
He is,
And as Mike said,
absolutely.
he's way below on the lot coverage.
All right, but he can also bring it in to work
Well, I-
without
I-
needing a
I
variance.
think you
I-
should look at this, you know, you're looking.
I would agree, if we flip it around 90
Do
degrees.
you want to figure this out tonight, or you want to take it back and
No, I'm gonna figure it out
this
right
for
now.
next month?
No, we'll figure it out right now.
All right,
So
let's
this
let's
shed
start
is
sketching.
12 by 20. If you turn it,
If we
On the
turn,
long
it the other way,
I think you should bring it back.
you could lose 8 more feet there. Maybe you shift it up a little further. I mean, what is
Okay,
considered,
yeah,
what is
okay, here.
considered the side? Here
yes,
or here?
no, this is the rear, that's,
This is the side?
yes.
So if you turn this and move it up, you can lose that side.
No, come on, I'll show you exactly what we can do. And John is right, we can reduce the variance. Come on, let me have that.
Protractor.
Well,
I think you gave it to me.
Did actually.
See, it backfired on you. I haven't moved it, it's stuck into the vinyl. No, Charles Leonard.
On the fly.
okay, so here's
You
what we
went
can
to
do.
the corner. You should move it over a little more, no?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess, okay, so why don't we do this?
where you
The
get rid
side
of
yard variance, the side yard setback, which was 9 feet, we can make that at 10 feet. And the rear variance, which was 7, we could probably make that, so let's make it 10 foot on either side, so you have something like this. So what we do is basically takes John's concept of flipping it around 90 degrees, have 10 feet here, 10 feet here. It'll just go through the stone wall, and then you have direct access. It's not too far, it's far enough away from the pool, and
Two different grades, though, on the other side of the stone wall. What I can tell from that picture, does that affect it?
Well, you'd have to level
well,
it.
you just have to level it off, because, again, this doesn't need a full, foundation down to the frost line, just needs a,
Taking the stones out, you put them back.
and put them back, exactly. So, all right, so then we could reduce the variances and have it 10 feet from either side.
So the variances would be 5 feet side and 5 feet rear.
5 and 5 instead of 9 and 8, correct.
I like that. 6 and 8.
All right, so we're saying 10 feet provided, 10 feet provided, variance of 10 feet, and 10 feet.
Yeah, just, here's the sketch that,
New sketch, you could
Just put your initials on it, Joel, I'll put it in the file for Dawn.
Plan comes together.
Everybody on board with that? Just so we get a sense, okay?
Thank you.
this is yours.
That's you.
Huh?
That's all you.
No.
Oh, is that mine?
That's yours.
Oh.
But I have to
Yeah,
give it to the
that's all right.
chairman.
That's okay.
You can, I'll give you mine, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
No, we'll make that.
No, you give that to John. That's for his
Okay,
records.
give me yours.
Okay, that's fine.
If you want, I can give you.
As long as it's an updated one in the records, that's all that counts.
I think in all fairness to everybody, I think this is a good compromise. Thank you.
I would agree.
No.
You want that, John? I had 3, actually.
I could have used this before.
Wait, I want to change one more thing.
Now it's too late. I'll never use it again.
You're gonna be the keeper.
I'll keep.
All right, Dawn, just make note that Joel revised the drawing, and it's in the ZBA meeting folder for you. All right, so 10 feet and 10 feet.
Yes.
Now come over here and initial it on
Oh,
the
I didn't use
application.
the application, right.
Joel Greenberg. All right, any other questions from board members?
No.
Any input from the public on this application? No. I'll look for a motion to close the hearing.
Motion to close.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Already got one.
Thank you very
Mark,
much.
there's no input from the public on any application? Let's go through it, guys. All right, application number 1, Harmon, look for a motion. Do I have a motion for discussion purposes?
Motion to grant.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion?
That's what I want.
No comments, concerns, issues?
Just again, to go over the criteria for the area variance, I think we could agree that the variance is in line with other variances that we have granted towards sheds, and that's nothing that's different. Is it self-created? Absolutely. I mean, that's a no-brainer. As for the other criteria, which is the undesirable change or the proposed adverse effect, again, this thing has existed for 14 years. Something changed now. For this particular board member, I don't believe it. So I would vote in favor of the variance with that in mind.
Okay, any other questions, input?
I'm looking at the criteria. Will an undesirable change be produced in the character of the neighborhood? There are several that have already been approved in the neighborhood, so we're not granting anything that hasn't been granted before. Whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by any other means, I'm not quite sure. It looks like the septic fields could be an issue, may not be an issue, but I don't find the request to be substantial, only because we have certainly granted variances like this before, and certainly in this neighborhood, we've granted them. Will it have an adverse effect on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood? Again, I don't think so. And was it self-created? Yes, it probably was.
Oh, absolutely.
By where he put it. I do not believe that this was done in any malice. I believe that Dennis Marasek was over there and had given some measurements to the applicant. So I do not believe that this was done to be deceitful in any way. Therefore, I believe that weighing all of the criteria, I believe that it should be accepted. I believe it should pass.
Okay. I'll do roll call vote, just for John, for the motion or against the motion?
For the motion.
Rose?
For the motion?
Bill?
For the motion.
For the motion.
For the motion.
Four.
And I'm for the motion as well, so the motion is granted. Okay, application number 2, Stacy Hirsch, I'll look for a motion.
I'm recused.
Motion to grant.
Second.
Seconded by Rose. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Application number 3, John Ferlaudy.
Motion to grant is amended.
Yep.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Any
As
discussion?
amended, yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Number 4, DPL Realty,
Should we
look for a
split
motion.
that, John, for the use variance versus the area variance, just to cover both?
That's a question for Greg.
So,
Yeah, it was all,
okay,
Granted all the related side.
okay.
I don't think you need to, unless you feel that you need to clarify as a board, but.
okay, so do I have a motion?
Motion to grant.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Any discussion?
just to reiterate, because of the use variance component of this, I think that the application did show that it was incapable of earning a reasonable return. I think that presentation was actually fairly thorough. Obviously, it's a unique property, and it's very uncommon. The circumstances are there. Other buildings are in that exact same scenario, and obviously, this is not self-created, so I just want to go through the criteria to make sure, to make it bulletproof.
And not that it matters now of what our code calls for now, but
Yeah,
where the future is going, it's going to be commercial
That's a
on
mixed
the
use.
first floor and
Yep.
residential on the upper floors.
Yep,
All
I
right,
agree.
Roll call vote, Julie?
For the motion.
Sylvia?
For the motion.
Bill?
For the motion.
For the motion?
For the motion.
And I'm for the motion as well, so it's granted. And finally, last application, Montgomery, look for a motion.
With the amendments.
As amended?
As amended.
As amended.
All right, John, second by
second
Phil?
that.
Yes.
Or vice versa? Any discussion?
I just feel that we had granted a huge variance before on this property. There is a building on here that's very, very large, and I don't see the need to add additional. So me personally, I am against this motion.
Okay, let's do a roll call on this one. John, for the motion?
For the motion, as amended.
Rose is not.
Against?
Phil?
For the motion.
Bill?
For the motion.
Silvio?
For the motion.
Julie?
For.
For the motion as well. So this is granted. Minutes from June 24th? I'll look
Motion
for a
to accept.
Any changes? Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you all. Good evening all, and have a safe summer. Thanks for coming.
And after we have Michael's interpretation, she has.
All right, one last item of business this evening. I don't have it in front of me. All right, this is what we're talking about. I'll read your memorandum, Mike.
Sure.
For everyone's benefit. This is dated June 7th from Mike Carnazza, Building Inspector. At the May 2021 meeting, the Zoning Board of Appeals interpreted that Code Section 156-28 applies to lots, the R residential zoning district, even though the schedule of district regulations is silent. In reading the entire code section, the density portion addresses RMF and RMFA, but does not address R. Please clarify which density should be used, and I will get the changes made on the code portion of the master plan discussions. Section 156-28 multifamily developments reads, A, in the R residential zones, multifamily developments and their on-site accessory uses for parking and recreation shall be permitted as a garden, apartment design, or townhouse design, provided that, 2, the maximum permitted density shall not exceed 5 units per acre in an RMF and 3.4 units per acre in an RMFA zone. In addition, I reviewed the previous zoning map, 1982 to 2002, and clearly see one RMFA zoned area, which is Kings Grant and Carmel, and multiple RMF zoned areas, which is Society Hill, Williamsburg Ridge, Woodcrest, Water Club, Clearing in the Woods, Vista on the Lake, Alexandria Court, Church Street, along Route 6 and Route 52, and Woodland Trail. All RMF zoned areas were permitted to be developed at 5 units per acre. So Mike, do you want to elaborate on this?
There was only one RMFA area, that was Kings Grant. And I assume that was because it was a very large townhouse community that they did in there. It was it's not a PUD, planned unit development, but it was done in that nature. Swimming, tennis, parking, everything's in there. They got 3.4 units per acre. Every other one in town, whether it was sewer or septic, didn't matter, was at the 5 unit per acre count. Okay, so there is, I don't know, I assume they had sewer back then? Yeah.
Kings Grant doesn't.
It was always sewer, so they had sewer there too. So I mean, there was no rhyme or reason why they were doing it, but the 5 unit per acre, if anybody tries to do something that's not in the sewer district, the DEP, Health Department are gonna hold them to whatever unit count they can get. They're not gonna go over any of these numbers. Not even close. There's no way they're gonna get it. But if we go with the 5 unit per acre, which is the higher of the two, it's gonna be held to whatever standard they can get unless they have sewer, and why not? You know, that's, if you have sewer and you have the sewer used and able to do it, God bless.
Well, can you put that in there with sewer?
No, there's no need to.
Oh.
Because if it's not sewered, when you go through the site plan process to get your units, you're gonna have to design a septic or a subsurface treatment plant, whatever they do, and they're not gonna get approval for anything near either of these numbers, to be honest with you.
Right.
Not gonna be close.
Right.
Septic, not even gonna be closed. So the sewer, that's why I say, so 5 units per acre, allowing it, but then holding them to whatever the health department standard is for non-sewer, and if you're in sewer, if the sewer treatment plant that we have can handle it, and the water can handle it, then you're able to go with that.
So it would be no more than 5 units per acre?
That's correct.
So that would be the language?
That's the max that this says now.
Right.
And I think that that's a fair number. So if you have the sewer and water and you
And it
have
would be
the.
consistent with all the others as well?
That's
Except for
correct.
Kings Grant.
And that gives you capacity, you know, if you have capacity in the district you're in.
I
So
think that
you're
makes
looking for us
sense.
to interpret that or
Yeah.
render an opinion, and you'll take it back
I think
to?
you should say we make a motion for interpreting the code to allow 5 units per acre in the residential zone. Is it 5.1? 5 units per acre and 3.4 units, so it would be 5 units per acre permitted in the R residential zone, and just leave it at that. And then, obviously, the septic is gonna dictate what they can do if they have septic.
Right.
So that'll be the new 156.28.
15628-2 will be interpreted to say that the R residential zoning district allows the higher density at 5 units per acre.
15628A sub 2.
I didn't say that, okay, yeah,
Okay,
I may
A2.
not have said that.
Just so we know.
Yep.
That makes sense.
156-28, a sub 2, you said?
A sub 2.
All right, so I'll go to our resident counsel here to
All right, a motion.
make a motion on the
Come on, Phil,
verbiage.
this is all you now.
A motion
'Cause I wasn't doing
to
it.
interpret
You say.
that 156.28-A2 be interpreted to mean no more than 5 units per acre in an R residential zone. Can I have an amen?
Second. Simple, plain
I'll
and simple, all right? Does that cover it,
Perfect.
Mike? And I'll
That's
look
all
for
I-
a second.
I second that.
Okay, so, are we all in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, that does
Now,
it.
motion to close the
Now
meeting.
look for a motion to close the hearing.
Motion to close the hearing.
Motion to adjourn the meeting this evening.
So moved.
Seconded.
Do I have a-
Second.
All right, so,
Deja vu. Have a good summer again.
all right,
Aye.
Still
thank
have a
you.
good summer.
Happy summer.
Next month, right?
Ciao. What is this, Europe?